Our better angels get clouded and we're more selfish than we should be, more anxious or neurotic or desperate or self-sabotaging, crueler, even. But I do think there's hope for everyone. I think redemption is possible for anybody. I named him Todd Chavez after a guy I went to middle school with, whose last name was Chavez and who I always liked. He had a good energy, and something about his spirit felt Todd-appropriate. Art is a dialogue. I'm throwing rocks across a chasm and hoping people catch them on the other side. What It Means When a Man Falls from the Sky, by Lesley Nneka Arimah blew my mind. I think 300 Arguments is a real tiny wallop of a book. It looks very slim, and at first, each little two-sentence or one-sentence thing kind of stands on its own, but again, as you read it, you get sucked into the momentum of it, and the whole of it is much larger than the sum of its parts in a really beautiful way. I was doing this really wacky sketch comedy but at the same time writing these dark, cerebral plays about characters coming to grips with their loneliness and heartbreak. My dream job has always been a way to combine the two. I would say, BoJack Horseman is the culmination of all of that. The comeback is so cringy and difficult, but watching it, what I was really struck with was the kindness and the generosity. I would like to see BoJack find some sort of peace. I don't know if happiness is the right word, I don't know if he deserves that, but I would like to think even a soul as lost as BoJack can somehow crawl his way toward redemption. So many cartoons are about real fun, happy-go-lucky simpletons. I always felt like the best comedy came out of sadness, and some of my favorite shows growing up, a lot of my influences, have these very sad characters and treat that sadness seriously while also being very funny. I think life doesn't necessarily have an endgame. Part of being a writer is just getting it in your bones, getting the muscle memory down, just doing it. BoJack Horseman would make sense in the world of Rick and Morty, but it's hard to imagine Rick and Morty in the world of BoJack. Humor was a big part of my childhood. My family was full of comedians. We'd sit around the dinner table and try to one-up each other. It sometimes ended in tears, but usually in laughter. When we started on BoJack, it was understood that the Netflix model was to give shows time to find an audience, and to build that audience, and I remember being told, "We expect the biggest day BoJack Season 1 is going to have is when we launch BoJack Season 2. I've written 6 seasons of a TV show with great help from an incredible staff of writers and other collaborators, but I still feel like I don't know what I'm doing. I've kind of freed myself of the expectation that I ever will. I think we're so often, as writers, afraid of writing something that is less than perfect, and that fear paralyzes us. I'm a big fan of writing less than perfect things. I don't believe there is any line bad enough that a good actor can't save. I am really excited by the form of short fiction. I have a short attention span. I don't know how everyone writes a novel, that sounds exhausting. I'm very interested in telling darker stories that maybe you are not used to seeing in animation, especially because in animation you don't see those kind of stories. If you are stuck on a problem, go for a walk and think about something else for a little bit. Going for a walk is very helpful for a writer because if you are staring at a blank page of a computer screen there is all this pressure. It is so easy now to never get bored because we have our phones with us all the time and we are always looking at stuff. I think when we get bored we are the most creative. I don't know if I have writing habits. Writing is impossible and every time I have to do it I kind of forget how. I'm excited when any Netflix show comes out. I'm like, yeah, Netflix. Doing great. We're all on the same side. I would love to just watch episodes of Horsin' Around if I could. This whole idea of too much TV, I think is really gross, because I feel like it's mostly white men who are saying it. And it's like, yeah, man, there's too much TV for you, but by nature of there being so much TV, there are other voices being represented. Isn't that a wonderful thing? I have a lot of affection for those old shows. You can put on an episode of Full House or Family Matters or Growing Pains now and I'll watch it, and I'll totally enjoy it. I always loved The Critic and how specifically New York it was. When I first moved to Los Angeles, I was staying with a friend of a friend of a friend up in the Hollywood Hills. I was in this tiny little closest paying $400 a month in this beautiful house. My work is my work and my life is my life. I thought it would be fun to make a cartoon about this sad, misanthropic horse. Netflix is looking for interesting ideas from interesting creators. They really want to help me make the show I want to make. One of the things that set us apart early on, as opposed to other animated shows, was the fact that BoJack was continuous and serialized. I think we're all trying our hardest, and a lot of times we do bad things and need to do more good things. We need to be more caring, more forgiving, more loving. I don't believe in good people and bad people. Saying someone's a fan of animation is as silly as saying someone's a fan of live action. That can mean anything. I don't know if animation is a style, it's a format. I am doing what I can to expand the tent and bring up other people and make sure we are telling different kinds of stories. You're going to get different kinds of animation for different kinds of audiences. Traditionally, adult animation has been for the young male audience. There's no reason why that should be. I moved out to LA from New York, and I remember feeling, kind of like anyone does when they first move, so very lonely and isolated. Netflix really trusts us. We don't get a lot of network notes. They're not coming back all the time like, oh, this is too sad, or this is too weird. I've been in rooms where the creator has sold a show and then felt like the network didn't buy the show they wanted. They bought a show they thought they could craft into the show they wanted. I had ADD as a kid and often acted as the class clown. My teachers used to tell my mom, Raphael thinks he's a real comedian. There was a warm and encouraging environment at home. My self-loathing and neuroticism are not because of my upbringing. I was very moved by shows that combined things that were funny and sad. I remember liking Simpsons episodes in which emotions were central. My general feeling about award shows that I've been to in the past was always that when you win, it's a great time. What a joy. You're celebrating there. And when you lose, the whole thing feels very stupid, and why does anyone care about any of this? This is boring. I want to go home. If you try to guess what people are gonna think, you're chasing the wrong thing. I think Netflix have a bit of a reputation for being totally hands-off, which is not quite fair. They are very active and vested, but in a really good way. Visit our website for more quotes, quoting.com.